Where did it stop?
Okay. All right. So we're back with part 3.
Mm-hmm.
And when we left, Courtney and I, well, all of us were talking about what to do if I'm challenged as a future English teacher. And Courtney was about to give me some tips on that.
I was gonna say, before you choose the book, even like consider like all the facets of why you chose it, because the books we read in school now, we don't just pick them for one reason, like what we're about. We pick them because like how they're written and the style they used and what it said about the culture at the time, the time periods.
Yeah.
I would say when choosing, if you chose a more modern book, like what's it about? Like, does it have an agenda and things like that?
Yeah. That's very helpful advice, Courtney. Thank you. I have another article, and it's called Combating Library and Textbook Censorship in Schools. So this will be helpful for you too, Emily. And it kind of gives librarians and teachers some tips on what to do if something happens. And so one of the tips is learn what persons or organizations are active in censoring school book collections. And so, some pressure groups will try to enforce something on the entire community or the entire school or something. So one of the ones that goes off of what Courtney said is become familiar with books and materials when they arrive so that you know the materials you are giving, so that you know about the materials and you can defend them if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, the material you pick should express various viewpoints on a wide variety of subjects, which I agree. I know that I feel like all I read in high school mainly was stuff I feel like freshman year we just read the very stereotypical stuff that was written by white males in 9th grade. But then I had in 11th grade, my American Lit teacher, we did a lot of stuff. We read Native American literature. We read some creation myths, which was really interesting. And then that was pretty much the only variety that we had, though. And so then, you get to English 4, which is Brit Lit. That's just old white men that are writing this stuff. And so there's really no variety, I feel, in schools. But then it's like, well, as we saw in the article with the experienced English teachers, if they try to add new material, somebody wants to throw it out of the whole school. So, I don't know.
I feel like if you added new material, as in new to the classroom, but like from an older time period, you may not come against as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like, for me, I don't feel like there's as many issues anymore. Like, I feel like people are starting to get a little more open.
Yeah.
Because, like, where I'm at Enloe, my CT just read her class a story about, like, shape-shifting werewolves.
Yeah.
And no parents, like, said anything.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Yeah.
Where is Enloe like a...
It's a magnet school.
What?
So, I mean, it might have a little more freedom because it's a magnet school.
What kind of magnet school?
I think theirs actually is focused more, like, on math. From what I know, it's not, like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like schools that aren't public schools have more freedom.
It's still, like, a public school, though.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, not a traditional public school.
Sure.
I feel like if you're at a traditional public school, there's probably more pressure to follow the rules, so to speak.
Which I find is interesting because public school is a free thing that we have. That's a privilege. And the fact that, like, all the time teachers are, like, bending backwards for, like, students and parents. And it's like, this is free. Like, this is a great opportunity
Yeah.
to free education
Yeah.
is amazing, and then like all the time teachers are at the will of like so many other things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, I feel like though you don't want to just teach. You don't want to bring up a book by an African American author in February because it's Black History Month. You want to be incorporating that as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Or, I mean, I understand that there are certain, I guess, books that students should have to read before graduating high school, and I agree with that. In a class that Marissa and I are in, we did a list a few weeks ago of 10 books that we think that students should read before graduating high school. And I don't remember all of the books that we listed, but we just put that they should read a Shakespeare play.
Mm-hmm.
They should read Great Gatsby.
We did put some like classics in there.
We put mainly classics, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird though is a classic, but it does have very challenging issues, and I think that but I mean, I read a book called Monster in a class that I took with Marissa, and it's basically kind of written as a screenplay with a script and everything, and it's about a boy who is convicted of accessory to murder, and he's African American, and I feel like that would be a really good book to teach with lower level students, just because it's not. It has quite a few pages, but because it's in like a screen, like a script, it's shorter. Yeah, and then it has some handwritten journal entries, and so it has very challenging topics, but it's not as difficult to read. It's not like reading, okay, you have Monster versus Othello, and I feel like the Monster, while they have kind of the same issues and stuff, Monster, I feel like, would be more engaging for them.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Personally, I was just gonna say, I don't know what time period Monster is set in.
It's like current.
Yeah, it's more current. I don't know if it actually mentioned the exact time, but you could tell that it was current.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm not a teacher or an education major, but like I would be hesitant about reading a book like that in our current climate, just because a lot of things happening with like African Americans feeling like they're racially profiled and things like that. Whereas I feel like something like To Kill a Mockingbird addresses the same issues, but in a different situation, so that it's not so directly on a hot topic, but it's still talking about the same issues, and that can open up discussion for the same
That's a good
things,
point.
you know?
I was going to say sort of the same thing, like being sensitive about the time, the age that we're in.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, I'm also not an education major, but I think it would be good to challenge them with, a classic, and, even though they might be at a lower level, I think they should still be challenged with, the same book as an upper level, and it might encourage them, like, they might find that they like it, or, oh wait, this isn't so bad,
Yeah, I agree. Or, I mean, even teaching tactics to get through difficult books like that.
Yeah.
Because me personally, I do have a hard time getting through classics.
Yeah,
and I've had to learn ways to keep myself focused and read them better.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. You just gotta think about things like that, I guess, prior to, because, I don't want to be thinking about, I don't want to be thinking about how to defend this book right when the parent comes. I want to be thinking about this prior to it. So, so I feel like we've covered a lot. Does anyone have any last thoughts or things they want to discuss or questions that they want us to discuss? Anything that we could talk about that we haven't talked about?
We covered a broad spectrum of stuff
Yeah.
when it comes to
Okay.
book banning.
Okay, let me think. Okay, what is everybody's favorite banned book?
You're supposed to know all these banned books. Is there something we could bring up that tells us all these banned books? Because I don't know what all books are banned.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really like Lord of the Flies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like so controversial.
Yeah, controversial is
Oh,
fine.
okay,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Huh.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be one we know for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
controversial.
I like Letters from Earth by Mark Twain.
Okay, I know Mark Twain. A lot of his stuff's banned.
Yes, and this one is one of his most banned and controversial.
What's it about?
There's a lot of differing views with religion.
Okay.
Because he wasn't a typical, like, religious, white man.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this one, he actually really starts writing a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not himself, it's characters.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be some of his views.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it.
Emily, what about you?
Probably Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that those are also, there's a list that I have, and it's 100 books you must read before you die.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the Harry Potter books. It's kind of interesting. They're very critically acclaimed, but they're also really challenged. So it's interesting, though.
Right, like how popular they are.
Yeah.
Every kid seems to love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Courtney?
No. I feel uneducated because I've not read a lot of the classics.
Yeah.
Because I could get away with not reading them in high school.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know if it was ever banned, but I skimmed it in high school and watched the movie Importance of Being Earnest. I don't know if that was banned because...
I don't know. I know that...
I know he was arrested for being gay.
What was the title?
Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
Probably.
Yeah, and Oscar Wilde was arrested for being gay. So...
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he's banned a lot, but... I know I did say Lord of the Flies, but... I'm not sure if this is book banned. I know that it's pretty controversial. Picture of Dorian Gray is probably my favorite book ever. And if y'all don't know, it's about this guy, and he's getting his portrait painted, and there's this little statue, and it's supposed to be like a god or a goddess of a certain religion, and he kind of makes this wish internally to always look like the picture. So the wish comes true, and so he never ages. The picture ages, but also he becomes he kind of does a lot of bad things, and so for every bad thing that he does, it's reflected on the picture. So the very first thing he does is he basically inadvertently causes this woman to commit suicide. And so the picture, the facial expression changes into like a snarl almost. And by the end of the book, it looks completely terrible. And so the picture basically is a mirror of his soul.
Sure, like how...
Yeah, and it's so good.
It's on my list. I have it.
It's really good. It's really good.
Was The Giver...
I feel like it is challenged.
I think The Giver was challenged.
Yeah, I think so.
Utopian.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
utopian or dystopian novels are always.
Yeah, I agree.
That was my favorite book in middle school.
The
Giver.
Yeah, it's a good book. Well, we have talked about a lot of stuff, and I want to thank all of these women for coming out tonight and completing this podcast with me. And I hope that whoever's listening will be encouraged to read a lot of banned books. Goodbye.